U.S. chipmaker Nvidia has released its latest quarterly earnings. It is reporting more than 100% growth in revenue, thanks to the surging demand for data center chips. Now, for all things Nvidia, let's bring in our old friend Dan Ives. Dan is the Managing Director of Equity Research at Wedbush Securities. Always good to see you. Let's kind of get right to it. We heard what John just had to say there, and some do think that Nvidia is growing slower than before, but revenue is still coming in at 122%. That is impressive no matter how you slice it. What's your main takeaway of the earnings report and the call afterward from Nvidia?
Yeah, look, death taxes and Nvidia crushing earnings. I mean, if you look at underlying demand, this is still what I'll call it the first, second inning of the AI revolution playing out. And look, splitting hairs on this type number would be like criticizing Djokovic for losing one game of one set in the U.S. Open. They continue to be godfather of AI. I think these are bullish numbers.
Yeah, okay, so the earnings did come out after the closing bell. Markets didn't have a chance to react to it, but the futures, NASDAQ futures falling after the bell, and Nvidia itself was down about 4%. Put that in perspective for us. How do you foresee the markets reacting on Thursday?
Yeah, I think this is actually more of a negative knee-jerk reaction. I think tomorrow you'll actually see probably, a lot of those losses cut. I think this is a name in the coming days and weeks that's actually higher than where it is today. And the reason is because what Jensen talked about, the godfather of AI, demand surging from enterprise. And that's what everyone was focused on. Is this AI hype or is it real spend? And that's what you heard loud and clear in the conference call.
Expand on that a bit, because what are some of NVIDIA's key strategies to maintain this momentum? I think if you talk to anybody right now, they are the best in the business.
They're the only game in town. Now, look, at one point over the next, call it 12, 18 months, AMD, Lisa Su, and others throughout semis will start to play in that. But we're talking about $1 trillion of AI CapEx over the coming years. NVIDIA is going to get a huge piece of that. So I think and the reason this is important, and this is probably the most important thing, is that it's the multiplier. For every dollar spent on NVIDIA chip, we estimate there's 8 to 10 incremental dollars spent across tech. That's the key to the broader tech market.
Yeah, I like the way you said that, and also referring to it as the godfather of AI right now. And as you mentioned, next year and a half, they are going to face some challenges. So talk about what you see ahead. Is it going to be smooth sailing because of its dominance? Are they going to continue to grow and move at the same rate that it has so far?
Look, it's a law of large numbers. I mean, when you're talking, we're getting now to numbers. This is a company where numbers have already gone up 5x over the last year. So clearly you'll have growth slow, but you're still talking about historic type of growth that we haven't seen. You have to go back to early days of an Amazon, an Apple, a Meta, and it's even dwarfing some of those. But this is a company that could now be doing $5, $6 of earnings power. You go back a year and a half ago, people thought that was maybe $2.
And where is it going to grow? Because that expansion, as you mentioned, we're in the first or second inning of this. It's really going to take off in the next year, let alone the next decade. So what markets do you think NVIDIA is going to try to conquer next? And with all the U.S. restrictions, is China a viable market for the company?
Oh, China is clearly a viable market because the reality is, despite some of the sanctions, China is going to continue to be a huge growth market. I think if you look what's happening right now, it's really about the enterprise. But we're still only talking 3% of enterprises have adopted AI. So you have we are just tapping the beginning of where this is all heading. And then we haven't even talked about consumer. Apple will be launching an AI-driven iPhone in terms of iPhone 16.
Right.
And we've seen Samsung and others. It just shows we are now in a fourth industrial revolution that's just beginning. And that's why this is the Mount Rushmore of AI. Jensen's at the top.
And also, we've talked a lot about the company and its potential earnings, but let's talk about how it's going to affect the everyday person. You kind of got into it a little bit there with the phones, but really that is going to dictate what this company does if people can find a way to use these chips every day.
Yeah, I mean, most users, let's say me and you, we're going to be accessing it over our iPhones, and you'll say even Samsung and some of the Androids. That's how most users are going to start, consumers are going to interact with AI. Developers now, you're going to have hundreds of apps over the next 12, 18 months that are generative AI driven. That's how most consumers on every day are going to actually interact. And it all starts, I believe, with iPhone 16 kicking off soon from Apple.
Okay, Dan Ives, always a pleasure. And I see over your shoulder the New York Giants. Are they going to be as good as Nvidia this year?
I don't think they're going to be as good as Nvidia, but I'll tell you this: we got Judge and the Yankees. That they're probably up.
Indeed. Okay, my friend, thanks so much. I appreciate it.